Hey everybody, welcome to the Cannabis Correction blog. Today we're going to be talking about a brief history of how hemp and cannabis became illegal. Now if you didn't know, cannabis and hemp have been used in our society and societies across the world from Europe to Asia to America have been using it for centuries. In fact, the Declaration of Independence was written on hemp paper. Columbus used hemp sails to even travel over to this country to discover, well, not discover, but to find it for himself. That's what he used. Queen Victoria used cannabis for her menstrual pains. Okay, so you definitely can be sure she was smoking it, not converting it into any sort of material like it can be. Now, this was all fine and good up until about 1930s. The 1930s, when Harry J. Anslinger was head of the DEA, and there was some problems that he saw with his lobbying corporate buddies. See, he was friends with William Randolph Hearst. Many of you who might know that name from early days of school as the guy who invented the printing press. Well, sorta. He invented the printing press that used wasteful paper. It used wasteful amounts of trees, and competing with this new technology that I'll post a link about called the decorticator, it was not going to suffice. Because of how effective hemp was in producing pulp, because of how easy it was to grow, because this can grow in any climate, it can really grow anywhere. The nickname of marijuana, of cannabis, of hemp is weed. It's probably the one you're more familiar with, to be honest. And truly, it is a weed. It grows everywhere. And I want you to keep that in mind every time you watch one of these blogs. The fact that it grows everywhere, and it's a plant. Cannabis has gotten such a harsh name of being a drug because of reefer madness, and it's because of these two men, Harry J. Anslinger and William Randolph Hearst. Now, what Harry J. Anslinger pretty much was, officially, was the government's propagandist. And it wasn't just William's interest in mind. Oh no. It was more than one corporate interest. Because not only did hemp replace paper with a much better, stronger paper at that, something I didn't mention, but hemp paper is stronger, more durable, doesn't really need half as many of the processes that the wood pulp needs to go through because of its naturally fibrous connections. We're not even looking at the environmental factors of how much trees can be saved. Again, 20 acres of trees, 4 acres of hemp. That's how much it could be replacing. But there was also chemical companies, such as DuPont at the time, where in 1938 they wanted to bring out their new fiber that was synthetically created called nylon. Nylon is a chemically induced nightmare because when it's heated, it releases and leaches all types of horrible chemicals. For official chemical names, look below. I'm going to post those so you can see what exactly is released when nylon is heated. It's not a good thing. So there was that, and of course there was Monsanto too. The as we know today, the company that loves to patent life. They couldn't have this plant either go into full production, into full food use. That's right, guys. It's a food, too. I know. It's amazing, and that's really why I do these blogs, because the things that cannabis can become, it's outstanding. And hemp seed is one of the most nutritionally, probably is the most nutritionally plant-based material that you could absorb if you're looking for proteins, which, guess what? This guy right here, lifelong vegetarian, could really use. I could use some more proteins in my diet. That wouldn't hurt. Oops, sorry for hitting the mic there. Hopefully my audio didn't go out of craze there. So around 1937, Harry Anslinger had to come up with an idea. He had to devise some way to thwart hemp and thwart all the future projections made of how it would kill their businesses, how it would kill their corporate interests and their strangleholds on the market. They had to find some way to slash it, but what? What could they do? Well, Anslinger started out basic. He started with trying to link heroin addiction to cannabis. And the results they found were completely non-experimental. They were bullshit. They were biased as hell and conducted and deducted in the wrong way. The stats that they looked at were stats of people who may have smoked cannabis, yes, but they didn't take into account all the other things that they were doing, like smoking and drinking and probably making bad decisions overall. Not to say that if you're a cannabis smoker you're making bad decisions, but it happens to be that you sometimes see people who are, I guess you could say, don't have their shit together, who are smoking cannabis, and they just happen to do other things like heroin. Okay, now if you looked at the real statistic, at what it was truly saying, and you didn't devise your own definition from it like Harry Anslinger did, what it was actually suggesting was that 85% of cannabis smokers didn't choose heroin. We're going to get into the effects, the gateway theory, all that in other blogs. Today we're going to focus more on the illegality of it and why it became that way. So he threw this figure out there. He tried to scare people. This was his start of reefer madness. Now, back in the day, nobody had internet. Nobody could fact check this guy, and he was relentless. When I said that he is a propagandist for the government, I was serious. That's all he did, okay? Now, not only was he not correct on his experimental data that he devised in reading the numbers completely bass-ackwards. Again, the link is below so you could see for yourself what numbers he got and how he thought that had anything to do with heroin addiction. There's no connection. It's unrelated. But another place where he completely contradicts himself and his results is how he portrayed people on cannabis. Now, this is one of the most giant annoyances that the government pulls, and that's scapegoating people. Scapegoating innocent people who are otherwise unheard because they're not the ones speaking to the mass majority, and they try to scapegoat them. Well, who were the scapegoats for cannabis back in the day? Since racism was still popular, they blamed it on blacks and Hispanics. Anslinger was incredibly racist. Okay, so you can already see, I'm not even done telling this story, but cannabis is being illegal because of this racist, greedy cunt. And we haven't fixed that yet? Really, guys? Come on. So what he would say is that cannabis would make black males violent, and that they would make them play devil music, which, guess what, guys? It wasn't rock and roll back then. It was jazz. It was anything that was not white, because back then they were a little bit more unevolved and they didn't know any better. They were not led right. They did not have the information. They were thrown tons of propaganda every which way they looked, and that's why the illusion, this American dream that people held fast to, I don't believe it or buy it for a second. I don't think the dream was ever there, or in fact it was just a dream, never something to come to fruition, because it was just a matter of lacking information back then that people didn't know how badly they were being fucked with. So in the 1950s, during the Red Scare, Anslinger comes back and says, oh man, how do we get people to go to war? How do we get these fucking hippies to stop fueling my war machine, fueling the government's war machine? Don't make any mistakes, people. War is one of the biggest profit centers that we have. I feel bad for people who go and fight. I feel bad for the soldiers. I don't feel like they serve me. I feel like they serve the corporate interest. I feel like they are dying for nothing, and I wish they would come home and realize this too. Again, they're being misled. When you walk into the recruitment station, they're not going to give you the most information. They're not going to give you the truth. They're going to give you whatever it takes, whatever guns, whatever perks it takes to get you to kill for them. Regardless, Anslinger needed a way to stop hippies from thwarting the Vietnam War, which he failed at doing. But he did succeed in doing this. He perpetuated a new myth, a completely contradictory myth to the one that he stated first about blacks becoming enraged and violent, and said that cannabis makes you a pacifist hippie. It makes you a pacifist, sorry, not hippie, communist hippie, okay? It makes you a commie. And back then, during the Red Scare, that was all you needed to say. Still, no internet to go fact check things on. Still, do you think people go to the library to really research this shit. I mean, how many people do you know these days who even go on to Google when they have a question? It's pure laziness, I know. Can't be explained, really, other than that, but still, people did not go to fact check this guy or even question the idea that pacifism was a good thing. They're like, pacifism, communism, there's a link, what? Cannabis must be bad. No. Cannabis is excellent. Cannabis is just what this society and culture needs to shock its system out of this war machine. Okay, say what you will about war, say what you will about culture and how war's necessary, but I don't buy that shit. I don't. I think what we need to be working towards, if we're ever to hope to sustain this population that we have going today, if we are, we need to start breaking down barriers and understanding each other, not breaking down doors and shoving guns in people's face and saying, where are your resources, give them to me before I run out of mine. That's not the solution. The solution is to smoke cannabis. Join in hippie circles, hold hands, and understand one another. Literally, it's not the real goal. It's not the real way to get there, but I could foresee it as being a catalyst to success. So, long-winded blog today. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about some of the cons of cannabis. I want to get that out of the way because, truthfully, there's really not any. Not any to the plant itself, but there is precautions that I want to tell you if you're a person considering smoking it for the first time. There's things you need to know about if you want to eat it. There's a lot to know. But that's why I'm here, Cannabis Correction Blog. I'm DeoGenZ, and I'll see you tomorrow. Fuck Anslinger and Randolph Hearst. They are racists and greedy capitalists. Oh, and one last thing before I go. I forgot to mention. This is the difference. This is the revolution. This is why we are a more evolved society. This right here, this YouTube experience, the internet experience, the exchange of ideas freely. This is what is truly going to advance our society. Not wars, information. Just wanted to add that little bulletin and tell you these blogs aren't going to go away until cannabis is fully legalized. I'm done with this. I'm done with the government. And I'm done with their lies. I'm going to spread the truth. You're going to spread the truth. And we're all going to learn together. I'm DeoGenZ. And I'll see you on the science side.